Howdy, howdy, folks. Welcome to Babble with Bronies. I am your host. My name is Everlasting Joy. And of course, joining with us is my fine band of cronies, Twilight is Magic, and Mr. Ben. I'd like to thank you all for coming. And boy, howdy, do we have a good one for you today. You guys ready to start the show? I will take that as a yes. Yeah, I know I didn't give you guys a lot of time to respond, but bear with me here. Cronies are crowned bronies. You know what? I'm going to take that and just run with that Twilight is Magic. Anyway, let me get a few things set up here concerning the call and all. I'll fix this, folks.
Hey, Elliot. You there? Can you hear me? Yep, I'm right here.
I just need to adjust one quick thing on my sound because it really likes to screw with me.
Oh, no worries.
There we go. That's much better.
Okay, good.
For everyone.
All right.
Would you kindly state your name for the record for everyone who is listening?
Okay, yeah, my name is Laurent Malaquais.
What is your job concerning the Brony fandom?
What's my job? I directed the Brony documentary.
Excellent. Thank you. Thank you very much. Are you ready to get on with the content that I have here?
I am. Let's. Can I follow it too as you talk, or
yeah,
is that
certainly.
going to screw me up?
You mean like via the recording stream or what?
I don't. Isn't there like a chat room or something? Or
yeah, let me pull one up for you.
Okay. If you just send me the link, I can check it out. I love reading the comments.
That should get you to it.
Okay. Oh, all right. There it is.
If it doesn't, I'll fix it.
Oh, okay, cool.
Should see.
Yep, I think I'm there.
There's a more proper link, quote unquote.
Oh, okay. I'm watching a trailer now.
A trailer?
Well, I have to watch an ad, I guess.
Oh.
For a trailer for a video game, I should say. It seems like these trailers, man, for video games look like movies. Sometimes you watch them and you get like 15 seconds into them, you're like, wait a minute, this is a video game.
Ain't that the truth? But yeah, you should see some text on the side here.
Yep, I see it.
There is. Let me get you set up here.
Oh wow, I can hear myself, and it's all weird.
You're gonna have to mute the chat.
Yeah. How do I mute this?
There should be a little side on the a little thing in the stream that has the speaker. That'll mute it.
All right, I'm looking.
And I'm sending you a room that you should see in green text there that will allow you to join us.
All right. Okay, I see it. There's a mute button. All right. Okay, I should see. All right. Cool. Okay. Yeah, I think we're good to go.
Yeah, we operate in a slightly different room for various reasons, but But yeah, just join us in the Vinyl Scratch Room. This goes out for everyone. Join us in the Vinyl Scratch Room if you wish to participate. All you have to do is just double click on the little hashtag room in the green chat there.
Okay. All right. Very good. All right, I'm just closing all my windows.
Sure.
And next thing you know, get in the middle of this and my Facebook starts going bleep, bleep, bleep.
Isn't that how it always works? Trust me,
I know.
I've had my fair share on here.
It's weird when you got nothing going on, like nothing is going on. And then when you have one thing going on, everybody wants your time.
Ain't that the truth?
Yeah. So where are you located? Where are you at?
I'm not going to give that away, but I'll tell you that after the show for what it's worth.
What part of the country? Can you say that?
Midwest.
Oh, Midwest. All right. Fair enough.
Can't you tell by my correct accent? Yeah.
Yeah. Nice.
Yeah. Of course, the chat will probably give it away, knowing them.
Oh, they know where you're at. Yeah.
Anyway,
there's a lot of bronies in the Midwest. I noticed.
They
big
tend
healthy
to,
brony community.
not only here, but the further east you go, it gets even bigger.
Yeah. Oh, the East Coast is off the hook.
Mm-hmm. Anyway, what was it I was going to say? Oh yeah, should we get started with the content?
Let's go ahead. Yeah.
All right, this one I'm just going to say just to say. As usual, we have our news here, folks. For the Brony State movies, that is for this week, the 15th and the 16th. The A movie we'll be showing is The Iron Giant. Pony 1 is Family Appreciation Day. The B movie is Flight of the Navigator. And Pony 2 is The Crystal Empire. So stop on by on the 15th and 16th and join us for movie night, folks. At 7 o'clock Eastern Standard Time on Friday and 2 o'clock on Saturday for the European Encore.
I'm sharing clothes now, Lauren. Oh my god.
But all right, now let's move on to. Do you want to do the video first or the two pieces of art first?
I'll let you choose.
Okay. Why don't we go with the art first? I always like to do that.
Okay.
All right, folks. This first one, I've only got two pieces of art in the video, so it's going to, like I said, I intentionally kept it quick. But this first one, copy. This first one is by our good friend Alasso, titled "Abandoned Ship." I saw this one and I knew I had to put this one in my queue for this week. I'm just gonna state this for the record, folks. Captain always goes down with his ship. Mr. Laurent, do you have anything to say about this piece?
I haven't actually seen it yet. Where's
I threw it.
Oh, is it
a link in Skype?
Okay, all right. So I was looking. Is it going to be on your? No, I don't see it. Okay, my Skype. All right, let's see.
Actually, I should do this.
Yeah, it's we got one really steadfast pony, and it's going down with the ship, and yeah, looks pretty miserable. It's a sad predicament.
Like I said, it's like a good Captain Scootaloo is going down with her ship.
Yeah, yeah. It's what is that flag? It's like
probably just a generic flag they brought on.
Looks like someone. It looks like pony underwear or something.
For all we know, it could be.
Because the ponies are naked, jumping into the water. Just the captain's fully clothed. Yeah. Okay.
Then let's move on to our last piece.
All right.
I'm going to give you the. I'm going to show the this one first. This is just the the still version, and I'll get back to this in a second here, but this one is titled In the Heat of Battle by I Am Not.
Wow, this is badass. I like it.
Cool. What do you have to say about it? Anything you want to say?
I like the action. I mean, it's epic. It's epic. It's an epic battle. But it's crazy. It's like Pinkie Pie is riding one of these ghost horses, and yeah, I don't know. It's weird. It's like they're good and evil at the same time.
Mm-hmm. One of the things that really stuck out to me with this picture was not only the action, but the spaces in between, the inaction. It allowed for a great balance of just that, action and inaction. I've seen artworks where there's just so much going on that you go, whoa, back off for a minute, folks. Just back off. But this one did a fantastic job of balancing that. Yeah,
no, they did. And Twilight's sitting in the 1/3 area of the photo. It looks good. I really like it. I mean, it looks alive. I mean, is this a still from a video, or is this actually his drawing? Is this a drawing? It's just, oh wow, it's great. It's really good. I really like it.
Now check this out. I'm going to bring this up on my end of the thing first, but here is your link to it.
Okay.
We did an interactive piece with this. It's a bit big, folks, so I'm going to have to kind of work around this. But I'll just give you I'll just take a section and show you the interactive version. Using your mouse, you can, interact with it.
Oh, this is sick. It spins. Wow, wait, I just did it. Mm-hmm. Wait, I lost it again.
You just have to have your mouse in the picture. And
there it is. Wow. That's awesome.
Give props to I Am Not, folks.
Dude, I Am Not I Am Happening. This is pretty cool. How do you even create something like this? I mean,
you're asking me.
It's like I'm assuming he's doing it in multiple layers, but I don't even know. It's pretty cool.
It is.
God, there's so many talented bronies. It just blows me away. Or so many talented people become bronies. I'm not sure which it is.
Why not both?
I guess so, yeah.
Not to sound like a smart ass.
No, but I mean, who knows? I don't know. But I don't know anyone that can even make this. Yeah, this is cool. All right, I give this 2 thumbs up for sure.
All right. Shall we move on to the video?
All right. Yes, let's do it.
All right. Now, this one, I suggest you unmute the stream and just watch as it goes.
Watch it on the stream? Okay.
That's a hay of a lot easier. But anyway, folks, I got this one. This one is a bit of a leftover from Nightmare Night. And speaking of which, that's what it's titled. It's titled Nightmare Night, an orchestral by Forrest Payne, or original by Forrest Payne. I'm sorry. Before I go on, I'm just going to put you on hold.
Okay.
I'll resume the call when we're done here.
Can you feel the ground? Still your heart pounds. Soon the blood drowns. So alone. A nightmare creeps into your soul. Monstrosities no one can know. The walls outside your window close as the terror inside you grows. You think you're safe. You think you found your way out. But that helping hand is waiting to strangle your hope. Cover your head in your ghostly white bed sheets. They can't grab you if your feet don't touch the ground. A nightmare creeps into your soul. Monstrosities no one can know. The walls outside your window close as the terror inside you grows. No matter where you try to hide, the fear will pry its way inside. No matter how fast you can run, nightmare night scares everyone.
Ladies and gentlemen, Nightmare Night by Put Trust in Fate, aka the original by Forrest Payne. All right, one last thing then. Mr. Laurent, are you there?
Oh yeah, I'm here. Yep.
All right, are you ready for the interview to begin?
Yeah.
All right. So I guess I should finish what I like to call the first 5 questions. I already asked you the 2 of them. Tell me
Okay.
your favorite. Who is your favorite pony from G4? Your favorite character from any generation, if applicable, and your favorite episode.
I would have to say that my favorite pony has to be Rainbow Dash, and my favorite episode is the Diamond Dogs.
No way. That's
Yeah.
mine too. Awesome.
Yeah, for sure.
So tell us how this whole Brony documentary got started.
It's a weird thing. I've worked with the producer Mike Brockoff for like, I don't know, since the early 2000s at a production company in Los Angeles doing a lot of documentary and reality based television. And we sort of kept in touch and worked on different projects over the years. And he just called me out of the blue and, said, hey, you want to meet for coffee? And we met up and he was talking to me about Bronies. And I was like, what? Bronies? Okay. I think I've heard about them, but I don't really know what that's all about. So I started doing some research and checking it out online. And the first thing, of course, that I came across was the Fox affiliates bashing Bronies. And I'm like, this is insane. Mm-hmm. And they were going so far as to blame the current state of the economy on Bronies and their mentality and how that's infected the youth and the generation of this country. And that's the economic collapse that we're in. And it's that I was like, these people have gone. I mean, like, why are they persecuting these people at such a high level? It was just so nuts to me. So And then I saw like the Brony response, and it was like these techie guys in a room that are like just trying to like defend themselves. And when you learn that, they're all about love and tolerating the shit out of people, that, I mean, here's like this bully picking on people who are all about toleration. It's like, this is like, it's nuts. Yeah. I mean, it was like the Chinese invading Tibet or something, it's like, it just reminded me sort of like, wow. I mean, it's the Dalai Lama's big thing is, you got to tolerate people and have compassion and, understand that they're coming from a place of unenlightenment and a place of pain. And you should be the more enlightened party and learn to, to tolerate them and more than that, evolve to, having compassion. And it was like, wow, I liked where the Bronies were coming from. And I thought, I mean, Fox, they'll pick on anybody, whatever. They don't care. They're trying to get ratings and they have this bully culture. But I was like, this is a really interesting phenomenon. They've now picked on a fandom of people that are good-natured and tolerant. It's like they really, that really inspired me to say, I really want to see let them tell their story and not force them to do it under duress, where they're, they have 2 minutes to put up a video and they're clearly like agitated. So it was like, create a whole documentary and let like, people that are prejudiced that really want to know more, give them a window into their world and see where they're coming from. And so when Mike and I talked about it, we talked to, and of course, John is the first person that was shocked by the fandom because, he had done Discord, some months earlier, completely forgot about it because that's the way John is. He's a working actor. So he's, he's flying off here, flying off there. And, and next thing you know, he started getting all these fan mail and he was confused. He'd forgotten that he'd even done it. And he had to go to his wife and his wife is like, you don't remember doing this? He's like, no. He's like, what's this My Little Pony? He's like, you don't remember? He's like, well, I remember doing this script and I rather liked the writing, but I guess, was that a cartoon? I guess it was a cartoon. And he's like, but it's a cartoon for little girls. And these aren't little girls. These are men in their 20s that are writing me, all these fan emails. I'm kind of disturbed. So he had, what's that?
I was just giggling at that notion. These are 20-year-old somethings writing me fan mail. Go on.
Yeah. I mean, more than that though. I mean, it goes, I mean, it starts at, probably 15 to who knows? I mean, there's people probably in their late 40s that are, that are instant fans of the show from the moment they see it, and they feel compelled to write him fan mail. So he spoke to Mike, and that's kind of that's sort of the backstory of how Mike and I got together. So we all sat down and said, okay, well, let's why not do a documentary about this? And John was very like hesitant. He's like, I don't know. I mean, I've only, I've sort of dipped my toe into this world. I mean, I know the Star Trek world and I have all those fans, but this doesn't really seem my thing. And we're like, well, and I said, well, John, well, that's why this is perfect, because you get to be the eyes of the audience that know nothing, and you're of the generation of people's parents that are judging their children for being involved in this fandom. And the irony to me is, like, I bet a lot of these judgmental people that are judging, their kids and their relatives are probably, into Star Trek and probably fans of John Delancey. Mm-hmm. So I'm like, here he is, like this perfect bridge between these two worlds, and it's just like, I was like, to me, it's funny because it's like, I mean, why is, My Little Pony seem stranger than being into Star Trek? I mean, that to me was interesting. Like, wait a minute, you like Star Trek, but you're going to judge somebody else for watching a cartoon. It's like, well, I mean, you could judge the Star Trek people too.
Absolutely.
It's never ending, So, so that's how we started. We did the video and we did it rather quickly. And I thought, and Mike's like, yeah, we'll just stick it up on Kickstarter and we'll send out some emails and see what happens. And I'm like, well, I mean, it's just a video. I mean, shouldn't we put some filmmaking into it? And Mike's, we don't have time. BronyCon's right around the corner. And, it's John's trip to BronyCon, and we just would throw it out there. And I was like, wow, okay. I mean, I'd like to have some time with it, but there was no time. Boom, he hit upload, and it was uploaded, and the next day it finally went live. And I'm like, yeah, well, that was a nice idea. I guess it's not going to go anywhere. I mean, this isn't going to happen. You know, it was like I sat there for the whole weekend going, well, I guess we'll see. I mean, we're asking for $60,000. I'm like, and Monday morning it goes live. I think it was Monday. I don't know. What I can't remember which day it was. I just remember Mike calling me going, okay, it's live. We got $20. And I'm like, okay, yeah.
Well, it's a start.
Yeah, I'm like $20. Okay, well, all right. Well, I won't be holding my breath. And so then I went back to working on whatever I was working on, and then Mike calls me back like 15 minutes later. Oh, we're at $60. I'm like, we're at $60? We're at, okay. And then he's like, nope, it went up again. And then then I was hooked. It was insane. Then it was like I couldn't even function for like a few days because I was watching it. I'm hitting the refresh, and I'm like, what? We're at $10,000. Like we're at 30, 40, 50. I mean, it went up. And then within a couple days, it was like, boom, this project was real and this was happening. And you could see, all the chat rooms exploding. I mean, it just spread like wildfire. It was so amazing. It was like, it was meant to be. I don't know how else to describe it. It just resonated, and, the support was incredible. And so once we hit that, it just kept climbing. John kept, and I think we'd contacted Tara and Lauren earlier, but they were so busy. It had taken them a few days to get back to us, and because he really wanted them involved. And then, we met with Tara, and Tara was, of course, Tara was amazing. And her and I just hit it off like immediately when we met. And Tara goes, yeah, I'm going to, Lauren's really hard to get a hold of because, she's works nonstop because she's so brilliant. She's like, I'll call her. I'll get a hold of her. So Tara was able to get a hold of Lauren, and then we all met, and we, announced that they were going to be involved in the Kickstarter, and then bam, it just exploded. That was it. It was all over. Then it hit like, I don't know. I was reading the Wikipedia. I think it was like, over 320,000 or 40,000 or something. I mean, it's just incredible.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it just within, I was like, oh, this is nuts. But yeah, but it was great. I'm really happy that Tara and Lauren came aboard because that just seemed right, to really have the fandom from its inception. And it was incredible for me to learn that the Tara Strong, that Lauren Faust was like basically the original Brony before the idea of Bronies. I mean, she was like this little girl playing with ponies in her bedroom, writing her own storylines, and generation 1, I think, or 2 or something. And it didn't really connect to the storylines, but connected to the ponies. And yeah, she's like 25 years ahead of her time. It's just crazy.
I think the show speaks on behalf of that.
Yeah, I mean, and so when she had the opportunity to do the show, it's like, I'm sure it just it just exploded out of her, all those years of pent up stories that, that she, that needed to see the screen, that needed to hit her tablet, and be drawn out and these stories told. Yeah, it's cool. She's an incredible person.
Oh man, there were about like 2 questions there that I can't remember. Oh,
that's right.
But I think I actually do have one. Your documentary takes a person by person approach. You follow, like about 5, 6 so different people on their journey to a big convention. Right. How did you pick the people that were involved in it?
Well, the big thing is so it started off like it was just going to be John Delancey's, his the Bronies through his eyes and going to BronyCon. Well, when we got that much money and we realized a lot of it was coming from Europe, or a good deal of it, I should say, it just seemed now, and that the conventions were popping up in Europe, it just seemed like we needed to make it bigger. And I felt also like for people to really understand what a brony is and to really humanize it as opposed to just taking, the audience to the circus, and showing, people the fun colors and all the great art. I really believe in the approach of getting personal and going home with people and seeing what their lives look like, what their rooms look like, what their wallpaper looks like. You know, if possible, if their parents are willing and their family, meet the environment around them. You know, and show what makes a brony, you know, your neighbor. You know, could be your cousin or your, you know, whoever. And then once you see where they're coming from, and then you see their metamorphosis into becoming a brony, or, you know, what the brony persona does for them, and that, to me, that moment where they go from their ordinary world to this bona fide persona, that's the magic. That's what's most fascinating to me.
You did hit on that point in the documentary when you introduced them.
Yeah.
Speaking of some of them, how did you pick them out in the sense of them specifically? Because a couple of them I've never heard before. You know, they're, forgive me, no names. They're not, you know, the Living Tombstone or Laser Pony as you picked. They're, you know, just everyday people from random location in Nowheresville, USA or world. So how did you find these people?
So we so on that thought, we put out basically a notice for bronies who wanted to be involved in the documentary, and that they should write in and tell us their stories. You know, what are their challenges? And obviously, if you're making a film, you want to see people in a heightened situation that shows why they're bronies, you know. Mm-hmm. And Alex was a great example because he's living in this small town in North Carolina, being persecuted, you know, by the people he grew up with. You know, mm-hmm. He says, you know, the rednecks, they come after me, but these people that he calls rednecks are, you know, the same kids he went to school with his whole life. That, you know, it's a town of, you know, probably around 1,000 people. It's like everybody knows everybody. And these people have chosen to exclude him. And in the face of that, and directly because he's a brony, because he's loud and proud, and he's the Twilight Sparkle of, you know, mm-hmm. of his little community, and which is, you know, most of his bronies that he has to deal with are that he, you know, the community, he wants to be in a brony environment, he's got to go to Tennessee, you know, so he's got to take a trip. But, you know, they really, you know, basically, you know, they threatened his life and, you know, made it very clear that if he wants to continue to do this, he's not going to be welcome in this town, the town he grew up in. And, you know, and Alex took the values of the show and the lessons of the show and really thought, you know, long and hard about it, and said, no, this is my identity. This is what I relate to. This is who I choose to be. And I will not back down in the face of, you know, your threats or your ignorance or whatever you want to do to me. And so that, to me, was very, and to most people, is very touching because he's at a tender moment. I mean, you know, he's 19 years old. It's like he's at the moment where he could be crushed or he could blossom.
What do you think he's done since?
He's blossomed. I mean, it's incredible. I see him, you know, when I met him, and you could see he was like growing into this, you know, bigger personality than he is. He's got a big personality that wanted to come out, but he was in the wrong environment to do it, because every time he was loud and proud about his bronyism and putting a, you know, the Twilight Sparkle or a Princess Celestia sticker on his back window, it gets smashed. And when he does this, he gets run off the road. I mean, but then, you know, when because of the documentary, I think, part and all the meetup groups that he was in before, he was able to really almost be, I think, a spokesperson, you know, a person of empowerment for those that are facing similar situations. And he's such a sweet person. It's like if anybody needed to reach out or needed some advice or some help, I'm sure he'd be there. You know, he's very caring that way.
On that same note, whose testimony was the most surprising to you in a good way? Which one stuck out the most?
The most surprising storyline is coming out in the Lost tapes. To me, the one that blew me away is the pirate party in Germany, in Berlin. These guys are bronies, and they're in the German parliament,
Really?
I mean, yes. These guys, and when they have for conflict resolution, they use what they call pony time, where it's time out, where they force everyone to watch an episode of My Little Pony. Because I mean, and that's how they do it. They're like, okay, it's too heated. That to me is like showing that this evolved beyond some fandom that people want to. People can say it's some silly fandom. They'll grow out of it. It's gonna have a life, and then it might die out. But when people are taking it, into their political parties with them, and they've borrowed the pony logo and they've put it, in the pirate party, that it really shows that this is really taken off, and it's gone a lot further than anyone could have thought of.
Whose testimony was the most moving? I'm sure you probably just already answered that, but for the sake of asking, I do want to ask, whose was the most moving?
The most moving. In what sense? Because everyone was moving. I'm not, and they were moving in different ways.
Okay. How about which testimony was the most personal to you in the so many adjectives to pick.
Well, there's Daniel, who I haven't talked about, so I can move on to him. Who's the Asperger's brony and living in Northern England. And I felt that he had a lot of challenges, and unlike Alex, didn't have that community. He wasn't able to. He's got Asperger's. He's dealing with all that. He lives in a small Northern English town where it's very it's about masculinity and I'm not sure they're so tolerant of colorful ponies. At the center of the town, there's a huge power plant, with these huge smokestacks that are just like, I mean, it's this mythical kind of thing, and there's nothing feminine about that town or really artistic. It's brick little cottages all kind of stuck together, and yet he found a way to like find something colorful and something beautiful, and to find some art in his life, when I'm not sure how many people in that community have that luxury. But he found it on the internet, and he's able to connect with people online and the show because he's got an internet connection, and that to me was amazing, because he's not that social. He just stays home or goes to school, and at school, whenever they kind of found out about him, or just because he has Asperger's, he was being extremely bullied, and this was his only outlet. His only way of communicating to the world was through the show and the friends he made around it. So, and on top of it, he was an agoraphobic. He's paranoid to go out into what he considers large crowds, which is basically any street, any kind of mid-sized town street, was too overwhelming for him. And the fact that he, I said to him, I go, look, you're going to this convention, we're going to Manchester. You realize it's a big city, and I want to follow you by yourself. I don't want to see you go with your family and you have a whole support team. I want to see you actually go through this and deal with your feelings and overcome, this in your life. And I think, that's the lessons of the show too, is about facing fears. So he agreed to it, and I said, okay. So, and you see him confronting this, and I was so proud of him. It was amazing, because I can't even imagine what was going on. I don't have Asperger's, and we've all had our anxiety, but his was off the charts. Mm-hmm. And he somehow managed to do that. And then he got into this, and I had no idea how he was going to react, because being in a convention surrounded by so many people, because that's like his greatest fear. And yet he got there, and he got in there, and he was a little, you could tell, his anxiety was up, but then, slowly within an hour or two, he was like, I feel really comfortable. I feel like all these people are like me. Like I can relate to these people. I don't feel, freaked out at all. It was beautiful. And then by the end, he's bro-hoofing all these people, and now he's like completely, ingrained in the community. And by the end, he was trying to figure out how to have meetup groups, and he's got like one brony friend who's kind of an on the fence brony friend in his town, who I think now is kind of much more of a brony because of the experience. But he was very much like trying to be like going from sort of the Fluttershy to the Twilight Sparkle. He made that kind of transition.
He did. I do remember that very vividly. The mass bro he gave at the end there.
Yeah, I mean, this is somebody that's like, probably a borderline germaphobe, like some strange Hollywood celebrities, and by the end he's like touching everybody. I was like, that's amazing, but if he hadn't had that experience, right? I mean, and maybe 5 years went by, maybe he would have turned into a complete recluse.
Which is certainly possible.
Right. I mean, so, I mean, here again, the making of the documentary might have even actually, and the whole experience that, the documentary forced him to do could have possibly changed, probably changed his life.
For the better.
I mean, I'd like to think so. Yeah, for sure. I mean, we'll know in time, but, yeah, I mean, I'd like to think that he looks back and goes, wow, that was a defining moment for me when, I needed an extra push. Mm-hmm. So, but I mean, he didn't even it wasn't his idea to be in a doc. His mom submitted a letter about him.
Really?
Yeah, it was his mother. I mean, his mother was like, is all over the chat groups and on Twitter, and she's on my Facebook, and she's always commenting, and Daniel's doing so good. I mean, I'm wondering if maybe she's a bigger brony.
So she got into contact with you and asked you to follow him basically for the documentary.
Well, she basically explained to us, I mean, she was on on Equestria Daily. She saw the posting and she responded, and she said, this is my son and he loves the show, and more than anything, it's the one thing in his life that he basically lives for, and here are his challenges, and I mean, she's obviously not inside of his head, but I mean, she's watched him grow up and she's watched him struggle, and she really felt that being a part of this would help him, and she was right. I really think that was an amazing thing she did for him, because nobody else's parents were doing that. Not that I can recall. I can't remember anyone else's parents saying, "Hey, pick my kid." But she's super proud of him. I mean, because most other people's parents were, even though they may or may not know their parents were bronies before we got there, we're not like, yay, my kid's a brony. It was more like, yeah, they're into anime and they like this and they like that. Oh, and they like My Little Pony. It was like down the end of a long list of like, well, I guess I can justify it by balancing it off against these other things that are legitimate shows that aren't weird. I mean, but she was like, no, I can see why he's into Little Ponies and the colors and, the whole thing.
This was Daniel's mom, or?
Yeah, Daniel's mom. Yeah, I mean, Alex's parents wouldn't, like, his mom seemed okay with being on camera, but his dad was absolutely not. Didn't want to be on camera. They sort of wanted. They didn't really want to, put themselves out there. And I can understand that, because they don't watch the show really. They don't really understand the show that much. Maybe the mom did, I think, a little bit more, but yeah, it wasn't like, and to their credit, I mean, this is it's a generation that, while they can see the goodness in it, they probably, takes a lot of shows, I think, for someone of a, if you don't get it right away, I think it takes a while and a dedication to watching enough to really get an overall picture of it.
Definitely. Speaking of, you're leaving me so many open possibilities here.
Okay.
Good sir. Why don't, and I hate to jump around like I am.
Hang on 1 second.
Sure.
Hello? Okay, hang on okay. Hang on. Okay. Hang on 1 quick second. Hey, Morgan? Hang on, I gotta let my friend in. Can you wait 1 second?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, I'll be right back.
Do 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 do
Sorry about that. My friend's coming over. We're going to this film thing to go try to promote our next project. So just stop by. No worries. Go ahead.
Hey, I know all about interruptions. Believe me.
Mm-hmm.
When you were putting this one, I can already. This one I want to ask just for the sake of asking it.
Mm-hmm.
There were a couple of fandom animators you used, like Jan Animation, to do all of the animations in the documentary.
Mm-hmm.
Why did you choose them versus hiring some professional, whether it be show staff or other?
Well, when we started looking for animation and we had the idea of animating, we kind of wanted to include the fandom as much as possible, because we realized very quickly that the Bronies, were incredible artists, and it just seemed like, we should let them do it. And, we did talk to, outside animators, and we thought, what, if Lauren Faust is okay with it, then let's do it. And this could also be, another opportunity for the fandom to kind of cross that line where they're actually taking part in making the film. They get to be more involved, which I thought was amazing. So, and Lauren was blown away. Like, we were at BronyCon at one of the benefit dinners, and there were some bronies that came in with they had redone some of the shows, and Lauren couldn't tell their animation from her own. She was like watching the storyline and going, wait a minute, I didn't write, that's fan. And I mean, it was incredible. I was like, so these people could be animating this. She's like, absolutely. Absolutely. So, I mean, basically in that moment, we came to the conclusion that, the show can just be continued on by the fans, just because the technology's out there, and when the computers and YouTube and Hasbro has been so amazing with the Bronies, and just like lets the Bronies riff on the show and the material, and they're all for it. I mean, the Bronies can keep going.
Do you believe that they will?
I hope they do. I don't know. I think there's never been a fandom like this. So this has never been done before. So there's really nothing to compare it to, because this, Toon Boom and all these programs, are available now, where before people were, hand drawing animated cells. And I mean, it was such a complicated process. And then what would you do with them? You know what I mean? Now that you have YouTube, and then you have an entire community that can't get enough of this stuff, you have an audience immediately, and nothing inspires a filmmaker to create and be prolific, as there's nothing like it. As having an audience, it's amazing. So if you've got an audience waiting for you, you're super inspired.
Oh, where do I want to go with you now? Just tell me about. I actually kind of want to take a bit of a more personal turn here. I want to get back to the documentary, but tell me your experience at BronyCon. What was it like there from your perspective?
Yeah, BronyCon was. So I didn't know what to expect when I got there. I remember just getting in there and going, okay, I see this convention. It's a wide open room. It's a blank canvas. What is this going to look like? So I set up, some time-lapse shots. We got some GoPros and put them up. And I was really fascinated in just kind of seeing. I knew it was going to be colorful. I'd watched a lot of stuff online, and I'd been to, I'd seen Tara Strong on Melrose Avenue doing a signing at one of the shows there. And I think it was just like a Brony art show. And I was like, I want to see the colors explode in this like completely white convention center. I mean, it was just white on white. There's just nothing. It was very sterile. It looked like a hospital waiting room or something to me. Ugh. And then, yeah, right. And then slowly, like, you see all the chairs come in, and then suddenly, like, people started hanging up banners, and before it was just an explosion of color. So I would say the color is the first thing that hit me. And the color to me, actually, I've sort of come to the conclusion, and the ponies, it's like visual Prozac, And you're under a lot of stress because when I got there, at that point, I'd already been to shot around LA, shot in New York, shot in Long Island, had gone to Atlanta, North Carolina, back to Atlanta to through Boston, Lowell, Massachusetts, Maine. Then I came back to Lowell, and then I went with Andrew Brockard all the way back to New Jersey, and then followed him into Manhattan, where he smashed into a taxi.
Care to elaborate?
He was burned out. I mean, the guy, I'm in his room, and in Lowell, Massachusetts, and he's trying to run the convention from basically from his room, and it's just like, I mean, it's a mattress on the floor. And it's just piles of paper everywhere. He's been typing so furiously. He's got like braces on his hand from tendonitis, and in the corner is a huge garbage can full of beer bottles. So I mean, he's just been like, and his roommates are just like, yeah, he's run ragged. And then he's like trying to like. And I don't think this made it into I got to look at the cut because I haven't seen the latest cut, but he was washing all the security shirts. There's 3 different kinds of shirts for the volunteers and security and staff. And he's a guy, he's washing them, and he mixed the colors together.
Oh, so, no.
It's the night before, and he pulls them out. I mean, and they're all kinds of jacked up. It's like, and he already is like delirious. I don't know, he's not sleeping, and he's in him, but he's very kind of stoic. It'll be fine. I've got it all under control. And meanwhile, I'm looking back behind the camera, going, "Yeah, this is gonna fall apart fast." You can tell. When you're in it. Of course, if I was in it, I would be like, "Yeah, it's all good." I know. I'm from the outside, I'm like, there's just so many days you can go without sleeping, So he was driving this U-Haul truck, and he's erratic. I mean, we're trying to follow him with the camera car, and we can't follow him, and he's doing crazy U-turns across like 5 lanes of like traffic, getting on the bridge, and I mean, it was like trying to follow him, and horns are honking, and he's just like, and so we end up losing him over the going over the bridge into Manhattan, and so the audio guy's in the car, and I have a GoPro set up on him, but I can't get a hold of him. And, and we're so stuck in traffic that I'm running out of gas. I have to pull over, and I lose him when I go to get more gas.
Oh no.
And so I get across the bridge, and I'm waiting, and I can't get a hold of him. It's not a bridge. I think it's a tunnel. And, finally I like get a text back, and they're still in the tunnel. Somehow I don't know how I got in front of them. And so I waited for like half an hour on the side of the road for him to pass me. And then suddenly I get a text, or like, he just drove right past me. And the audio guys, get over here right now. I'm like, what happened? Just get over here right now. We find him. He's sitting on the curb. He's got his hands buried in his face, and there's some like mobster-looking limo driver standing there. Tough dude with his arms folded, with his whole posse, and he's like, "He broke my mirror." And I look over, and with the U-Haul, he had shattered, the mirror of this like limousine Escalade. And the guy is there. He will pay, and I'm like, "Oh no, this is terrible." It's like, And so meanwhile, his staff is waiting for him to deliver the contents of this U-Haul, or he's supposed to pick stuff up. I can't remember the details, but he had a delivery to make, and because he hit the mirror, the U-Haul, the storage thing closed. He couldn't get there. People needed all this stuff. I mean, it was a train wreck.
I was just going to say that.
Yeah. And then when he got to the Brony, I mean, he was, he's stoic though. I mean, he had a lot of responsibility. And I feel for him, but yeah, it was that was hectic. So when I got there, it was already pretty tense, and obviously he didn't want to, he was sort of disappearing, and it was making it more and more challenging to film him because, obviously it's like, does he want us to film him breaking any more mirrors or whatever else? Yeah, I mean, I could feel for him, but so yeah, I didn't know how it was going to be. It seemed yeah, it seemed like it was going to be intense, and in fact, it wasn't. It was quite. Everyone was really nice, and people were super helpful, and yeah, it was. And then we had this brony that came in from Canada. His name is Scott McLeod, who just wanted to shoot. He just wanted to be one of our shooters, and he was a brony. And I'm like, okay, well, this is going to be interesting because we usually work with professional crews, and he's so he was writing us all these emails, and so he showed up, and with a crazy, like, he had a whole DSLR rig with follow focus and this whole thing, and we're like, okay, we'll make him D team, we'll let him go out and we'll see what happens. And he ended up being like the best shooter. He's the guy we took to Europe, and we left the professional crews behind. So I mean, it was just amazing. It was some of the professional teams like came through, and like some of the footage didn't come back as well as we'd hoped it would, but Scott came through and his stuff was like amazing. Wow. So the whole sequence where everyone's dancing and singing the song outside of BronyCon, that's all Scott. Scott just came back with that.
Wow. Yeah,
we were like, what? Are you kidding me? He's like, no, check it out. I mean, I hope it's okay. What do you guys think? We're like, I think that's going in the film. I think that's it. I think you're awesome. Yeah. So that was amazing. And there were lots of stuff like that, it was just lots of, or people would come and tell us about a storyline, or this is happening. And, and then the thing also was really cool, I would say, was the fire at BronyCon. That was like, the way that everyone sort of band together and everybody's helping each other. And then, everyone gets thrown out of the convention. Well, I think at a normal convention, people would be, angry and demanding to be let back in or whatever, indignant. And it's like the fire truck shows up, and then before you know it, spontaneously, they're like writing a song about it, the fire song. Yep. And that was just like, it was like, yeah, it was cool.
Yeah, you bring up that fire.
That was amazing. And then they're reporting live on the fire. It's like breaking news. It was just too much.
Fire in downtown Moscow.
Yeah,
wrong one. So, what was I going to say about? Oh, I remember now. Tell me about Dr. Edwards. If you have anything to say about him from your documentary. How'd you get him in and all that?
How did he come about? I think Brokoff made contact with him.
Okay.
To bring him in. Yeah, I think that's more of a Mike thing. And I was down on the floor, so I wasn't even in that interview.
Okay.
In fact, I never even spoke to him. So, and that just, I think I might have met him, but yeah, no, I was on the floor for that. And I think I think actually John Delancey interviewed him, come to think of it.
Really?
Yeah, I think John was doing some of the interviews. I'm pretty sure it was either John or Angie, but I think it was John. I think John wanted him.
So, I'm just trying to think. Any other questions I have concerning the interview, or not the interview? I think the best way we're going to be moving to fan questions here shortly, but I do have one more question for you, at least for now.
Yeah.
What would you say was the best moment doing this documentary? The proudest moment for you doing this documentary?
I think I have to say it's I was really touched by Alex and Daniel's stories. I think those are two amazing moments for me to see those two blossom. I mean, I hate to, there were so many amazing moments, but those are the two that come to mind. And also, I mean, just to see like how much, Tara really loves her fans, to me is amazing, that she takes time out of her crazy life to go to these conventions and finds, it's so important for her to connect to her fans. And that to me was, and she's willing to go, she's got all these charities and 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 she loves to help bronies. I mean, I guess the generosity too within the fandom and how accepting they are, and to see that it kind of goes back and forth. The people making the show and the fans they share those same values. I've never come across that before.
That's interesting, but
Yeah.
not unexpected either.
Yeah, well, I mean, I don't know. I came through just with an open mind, and I just wanted to see what would hit me. I tried to not come at it with like, these are, this is what I'm dealing with, as opposed to, let's just play. Let's just find out. Let's just see what happens. That's what made it fun too.
I can only imagine.
Yeah.
All right. You ready for the fan questions?
Sure.
All right. Here's a good one. Matt the Shadow Man asks, how do you think the fandom differs from American bronies compared to European bronies?
That's interesting. I pondered that, and I have to say, I think a brony is a brony. They're generous, they're sharing, they're crazy about plushies. They'll line up for hours to get a plushie. They'll go into deep despair if they can't get a plushie. They'll celebrate, the voice actors of like the German Twilight Sparkle and the Swedish Spitfire. I mean, and they'll celebrate all parts of the fandom, even though they would really love to have Tara Strong over there, but they're bronies. I mean, they're the same. Yeah, I mean, they're
through and through.
Yeah, I would say, and I saw bronies from that I'd met in LA and that I'd met in New York and that I'd met in Stuttgart, and I saw them at Buck, and it was like they were having it seemed, when I watched them, it was like they were having a great time in all the different cons, and they were just taking it all in. So it just, I would say that they're, the languages change, the accents change, but the passion is the same.
What a great way to put it. I absolutely love that. And no, I'm not trying to flatter you. I sincerely mean that.
Okay.
Let's see. Thunderbolt asks, what other projects have you worked on?
Before or after? Or just...
Why don't we go with before, because eventually I would, if he hadn't, been asking you about future plans.
Oh, okay. Before this, I had I'd worked on shows like when Brockus and I met, stuff for MTV, Discovery, Travel Channel, TLC, A&E type of shows. I did a bunch of hidden camera shows. I worked on that Chelsea Handler show, Girls Behaving Badly, the all-girl hidden camera show before she exploded into a talk show host. And I slowly started getting more into documentaries because, I just wanted to go more down that path, more kind of personal storytelling. And I did a documentary about these artists in Douala, Cameroon, in Africa, in West Africa. And it's about a group of artists that protest this corrupt museum and that held their artwork hostage for a number of years. And when they found it, they realized that they just had left it in their basement and it was rotting in a pool of like dirty water.
Yeah.
And these are some of the most famous artists in Africa, and they staged this this procession. They restored their art, and they burned it to protest a museum. I mean, it was pretty disturbing. So I did that, and that was a really life-changing experience for me to kind of, to not be coming at something with an agenda, because when you're working in TV, it's like you have a fast turnaround. you know more or less what it is that you're doing. It's all laid out. It's pretty specific. There's not really time to explore and find your story. It's like, no, these are the beats that you're going for. And I love the idea of just going, okay, I just want to, I want to do the cinema direct thing, the Maisel brothers approach, and be a fly on the wall and not be so provocative with the camera, which is a lot of what you see in, reality TV, where the camera is very present. You feel the camera is almost instigating people to do things, as opposed to I'll just sit back and just be a voyeur in their world. So that kind of got me to that. And then after that, I did I'm still kind of working on this, but I did a feature-length documentary about kind of my relationship with my father, who's his family was deported during the war, and he's a child of the Holocaust. So I went back to Europe with him after 60 years, and he saw these orphans that he felt like he became an orphan that he hadn't seen in 60 years, and there was some crazy war pension for them, and the only way that they had to sign these affidavits to, because all the documents were supposedly lost, and the only currency that they had and way to like recognize each other were these horrific stories that they would share. Ooh. And so like I went through that. Again, it was like, it was the same kind of thing where I'm shooting and direct. I'm all by myself with a camera, and that was amazing, because it was like, here are these amazing storytellers who had, triumphed against, extreme oppression, far greater than Fox News, obviously. But, they were victims of that, and they were able to bond together and they were survivors of it. And so that was amazing. I mean, I wasn't feeding people lines or provoking people into situations. There was no agenda. It was like,
this is just people telling their story.
Right. Yeah. And it was just following these people. So that was an amazing, and that's the doc. And I did this, and I probably need to recut it and take a few minutes out, because it's pretty long. It's really heavy. And John watched it, and Mike watched it. And that's when John was like, yeah, he was like, remember, he's like, I have to watch this in pieces, man. I got to wrap my mind around this. It's so heavy, I mean, he was just like, and he'd pace back and forth and, just try to wrap his mind around it. And so it was kind of funny to watch him try to, grapple with it, because he's a very, I mean, he's lighthearted, but he's also can be a very serious person, And so I did that, and worked on that. I've currently been working on a documentary about the Made movement, kind of the resurgence of manufacturing in America. Mm-hmm. Been doing that, and I'm currently right now working on I was shooting this for a reality show. I was shooting basically like a sizzle reel where you go in and you kind of give a taste of what the show would look like, and I was following a psychic who does seances basically in and around LA, and she grew up in the Hollywood Hills and lives down the street from this notoriously haunted mansion in the hills where Charlie Chaplin lived, and Mary Astor and the Rolling Stones are there, and the Mamas and Papas, and Marilyn Manson was there. And it was so spooky that eventually he moved out, because I guess the house was freaking him out. And these guys, like, in their late 20s, filmmaker types moved in there, and the house was freaking them out, and they called the psychic in. So we follow the psychic in, and I'm filming the psychic, and and there's a heavy vibe. I mean, she's doing the seance, and there's a lot of the cliches, the Ouija board, the whole thing, and the energy just started getting really dark and creepy and kind of spooky, and I was like, wow, I just thought this would be some kind of silly show. And at one point, everyone starts screaming. They look at me, and I didn't even understand what was going on, because I was in a trance. But I'd caught on fire. I had sort of like brushed by this candle or something. I'm not really sure even what happened. And there was, I was engulfed in flames.
Oh my Lord!
It was bad, and my back was burned. And I mean, I just changed shirts and kept going, but I had this burn on my back, and but all this weird stuff started happening. Like she would ask questions and suddenly the windows would blow open, and this record player that wasn't even on was like suddenly making noise. And I mean, it was pretty crazy. And as I was packing up my gear, like right next to me, like around the corner, this glass flew off a shelf and shattered on the ground. And so I went home feeling pretty spooked. I came back and I'm like, I'm free. I'm not going back there. And yet, so then a week later, we need more footage.
Of course.
So yeah, right. So I'm like, I'm never going back to this crazy place. And I've watched Marilyn Manson on YouTube in this house. I go back up there, and it's like, I get that, I'm like, maybe it's all in my head. And I'm like, no. And I start looking at the scar on my back, and it looks like a crazy like dragon or a snake head. I mean, and the psychics are like, yeah, you've been branded. We're not sure what this means really. Maybe it's protection. Maybe, I don't know. I was like, well, I've been burned. Let's try to like make this thing. We got to do something with it. So I'm filming, and like, they're getting all these, like, they have these ghost generator apps. So they're getting all these like crazy, like, it's like nuclear war and danger and all these weird negative things. And then they start talking to some Japanese, I don't know, it was a Japanese like kamikaze pilot or something. It was bizarre.
Oh,
and I was like, what? And then they're like, they'll ask a question, wait for an answer. And then sometimes instead of the ghost generator generating some answer, these frogs would start croaking outside. I mean, it was just, and then the windows were blowing open again. And then we go upstairs, and the house is built by somebody that was into the occult, because it's like you walk in and it's got this little like bridge, and the doorway looks like a mouth. It's like, it looks sinister. It's like, it's low, it's uninviting. There's a landing, and on the landing there's like this portal that's painted, and it looks like the planchette from a Ouija board or something. I guess it's the seal of Solomon. But I've Googled it, and I've seen things similar to it, but I've never seen this one. And then there's a spiral staircase that goes all the way through the house, and on either side there is like a room. It's like balanced, like the Kabbalah tree of life or something. And then at the very top is this perfectly round dome, and the stairwell wraps into the dome, and it has a yin yang in it. So it's like, you look at it and you're like, okay, this is creepy. And there's 12 little windows all the way around this little dome. And everybody's walking through, and I watched the footage in post, and I could hear this whispering, and I was like, what is this? And I start playing it and editing. I turn up the volume, and it's going Duvall. I'm like, what? Devil? Duvall. And it's like 6 people were listening. Nobody could figure out where the sound was coming from. I'm like, it's like somebody's whispering into the damn microphone on my camera. It certainly wasn't me, and I was right there. Mm-hmm. And so I was like, okay, this is just, it was bizarre. And so then as I'm leaving, there's like danger, all these warnings. So some of us pile into my car, and I have this little SUV. And as I'm backing up, and it's in the hills, it's on the side of a cliff, my back tire catches on the curb and pulls my car over the edge of the cliff.
Oh,
now
no.
My car is balancing on the cliff. It's about to tumble down the cliff into the house below. And I'm not even sure if it's pure dark. We had to climb out the other side, and AAA shows up with a winch and a flatbed truck, and I had to sign all these releases if they drop my car. And it took them like 45 minutes to get my car off. It was insane. So afterwards, I'm telling my friend, that movie Blade, and that with Wesley Snipes, the vampire film.
Yep.
And he did that movie Blade and The League of Extraordinary Gentlemen. He's a good friend of mine, this director. And I was like, hey, I told him the story, and he's like listening to me. And he's a very skeptical kind of person, British kind of, everything is he's very kind of scientific. And he's like, yeah, I can't explain this. It's weird. And I go, what? He's like, well, that's weird. And that like up until like 6 months ago, I used to own the house 4 doors over. I know that house. He's like, that house is creepy. And And so him and I wrote a screenplay about it. And so now we've taken that script, and now I'm trying to, that's my next project, is getting that made. So now he's trying to help me get it made. And so Tara Strong wants to be in it. So I want to put Tara in it. And and the psychic was in the seance, wants to be in it. So that's my next project that I'm trying to get off the ground.
This sounds. How do I want to put this? Are you going to turn this into some bad horror movie that's going to appear in theaters, or is it going to be a good horror movie, like a documentary type?
Well, it's going to be documentary style based on the actual event. But yeah, no, it's not going to be like a bad horror film. I want it to be, it's kind of funny and silly. It doesn't take itself super seriously, but at the same time, it takes the event seriously.
I'm not saying, I say bad under the guise of movies like today, like, all the movies.
Oh, Paranormal Activity kind of stuff. Yeah, it'll have a bit of that Paranormal Activity in it for sure. I mean, I would like to see Tara running around screaming and stuff. I think that would be amazing. See her running around a haunted house being chased by a ghost. Yeah, I'd love to see that. I think that would be, the ghost can be tearing at her clothes. Sure, why not? I think who wouldn't want to see that?
You have my attention.
Good.
Mr. Ben, in before it shows up on Brony State.
Yeah.
All right. Next question. Got a lot of really good ones here.
Okay.
We have a couple people asking this, but I'll say it from this person since he was the first. Thunderbolt asks, "What is your favorite movie of all time?"
Oh wow, my favorite movie of all time. I don't know. I have a couple. I love Blade Runner. I love Casablanca. I love Fitzcarraldo. I mean, I guess classic films. I really like The Big Lebowski. Pretty much anything Coen Brothers is always good.
I would agree.
Yeah, those guys are amazing. I love Kubrick, so like I love a lot of Kubrick films. I like Fellini a lot. Fellini's super inspiring. I mean, at times I felt like making this documentary. I felt like I was like in 8.5.
Nice.
It's like a complete circus of that was yeah. Who else do I like? I mean, I'm trying to think. Like, I really like, as far as documentaries, I really love the Banksy documentary, The Exit to the Gift Shop.
Okay.
Have you seen that?
I've now that you mention it, I vaguely remember it. I haven't seen it, but it's just a vague memory.
Yeah. It made a little splash for a while. You should check it out. It's quite a brilliant documentary.
Exit to the Gift Shop?
Yeah, it's all about, Banksy, the street artist.
Okay.
It like, there's this crazy French guy that follows him around the world, graffitiing all over the place. I mean, it's funny how he defines art and redefines art and comments on art. I mean, and commercializes graffiti art that, basically is commenting on itself about the art world, that, it's amazing. I mean, you can go on and on and on. I mean, it's a really good documentary. It's probably one of my favorites in the last, 5 years.
Any other documentaries you like? I'm throwing that one out there myself.
Yeah. I'm trying to think of a really good one that, I guess, there's a Werner Herzog film called My Best Fiend, and it's all about Werner Herzog's relationship to Klaus Kinski when he was making Fitzcarraldo. That's pretty brilliant. He's the guy that did Grizzly Man, if you remember that movie, about the guy that gets eaten by the bear.
Oh my.
Yeah, it's that one's really good. I tend to like gritty, dark subjects.
Sorry.
Yeah, that's right.
Retro Cheerily asks, what other cartoons did you watch before Friendship is Magic?
I'm a big Family Guy. I love Family Guy. Of course, as a kid, I loved The Simpsons.
Wow.
Yeah. South Park.
Mm-hmm.
So those are probably my big. Those are my. Those are my big ones.
How about Thunderbolt asks, which pony do you relate to the most?
Rainbow Dash for sure.
How so? It just, out of some curiosity.
What I love about Rainbow Dash is that she's fearless. She's out for adventure, and she's flying through the sky. I mean, I've always wanted to be a bird. If I could be anything, I would be a bird. I just love the idea of that freedom, and she can be in the world. I think she's kind of like I can relate to her sort of like as a filmmaker, because she's in the world, but at the same time she can step out of it very easily and take a nap on a cloud, and she's nobody can bother her. And then when she wants to be in the world, she can be there in a split second. So I love that kind of in between two worlds thing.
Existing between two worlds.
Yes.
Oh, which one do I want to? You know what? Okay, I'll do this one. Flutterlights asks, do you have an OC, as in a pony version of you?
Yeah, there's actually one on Twitter, or on Twitter. If you look on my Twitter, Laurent510, you will see my pony. Someone did an OC for me, a couple of them, and they're on there. So, and subscribe, because I'm trying to build up my Twitter account. I think I only have like 400 followers. I got to catch up with Tara Strong. She's got 140,000 or something.
That sounds about right.
Yeah, I'm like, I have 400.
No, I'm not going there. I was gonna do a bit of a Jerry Springer jab, but no, I'm not.
Oh, you can if you want.
I was gonna say she's got more followers than Jerry Springer.
Oh, does she?
Yes. It's you remember back when Jerry Springer was looking for bronies to come onto his show?
No, I didn't know about that.
Oh, that was I want to say not terribly long after your documentary came out. He Jerry Springer eventually asked bronies to come onto his show, in typical Jerry Springer fashion.
Right.
And Tara Strong was one of the most ardent individuals saying, bronies, do not go on his show. Just stay away from him. And one of the comments she wrote was something like, if we play the followers game, I've got more followers than Jerry Springer. Kind of as a suck it to him.
Yeah. Oh, I believe it. Yeah, she was kind of telling the cloppers to stop talking about clopping to because people would show up at the cons, and they're, interviewing, trying to find cloppers to talk, and they found cloppers that were complete. I don't know. I think they were. I'm still not sure if those people were actually bronies, if they were just kind of, brought in by Howard Stern to act like they're bronies. You never know with that guy.
You don't.
I don't know. I was like, because I was at the convention, and it was like the people that he was interviewing about clopping. I was like, I never saw that person there or that one. It was a couple of people I was like a little bit suspicious of, but I mean, who knows? But yeah, Tara was like telling all the cloppers, okay, stop talking about it.
Which I can't say I blame her.
I mean, I think people should be free to clop if they want. I mean, but yeah, the media likes to spin things around, and I mean, from their point of view, they're just looking at ratings, and they want to be provocative and to say crazy things and to, show crazy people, and they'll exploit anything. And if you get caught up in their net, they'll use you too. I mean, it's,
I'd ask if they have any dignity, but we all know they threw that out decades ago.
Yeah, they don't care. I mean, he'll humiliate himself too, so you don't want to.
Oh. Okay, we've got I'll ask them all three.
Okay.
We've got 3 questions here from Mr. Ben, his typical 3 questions.
Okay.
What's your favorite flavor of ice cream?
My favorite actually, I've been eating frozen yogurt. I'm into the tart flavor,
Mhm.
so I would say tart. It's kind of sweet tart. I don't know. It's just called tart.
I I know that there's frozen yogurt, and that's usually I can only assume that that goes with it. And yeah, that counts. That'll count.
Yeah, because I haven't been eating much ice cream. I don't. I'm more into frozen yogurt than I am into ice cream. When I was a kid, I grew up working in a yogurt shop,
Eh,
so I think that forever marked me. And I used to eat buckets of yogurt every day, and I could still do it. But I have to I'm like, wait a minute, this is nuts. Like I can't.
Of the four classical elements, earth, fire, wind, and water, which two would you like to control or manipulate?
uh, Water and fire.
Good choices. How come?
Well, I think astrologically, I'm the fieriest water sign. So those are the elements that I relate to.
Good answer. And last of this one. In your uniform, professional, subjective, unbiased opinion, what is the meaning of life?
This very moment,
That'll work.
this is it. I mean, the meaning of life is accepting what you see every moment, going moment to moment and, trying to have an open mind and trying not to let the past influence the future. I mean, that's often something I do, and people comment on, having one foot in the past and one foot in the future and not, and ignoring the present. So I guess trying to be more present to me is the meaning of life, and or at least what I try to right now is my big focus. So trying to be present.
Fantastic answer. Here's a good question. Iwa wants to know, what other movement in history of mankind, meaning extending to media in current times to things like the Renaissance art flow, would you have liked to have made a documentary akin to the Brony documentary on? If it would be shown in the same time that one movement was actually happening. Bit of a loaded question.
Yeah, I think I would want to be. I would like to see Leonardo da Vinci, dealing with the Medici and painting the Sistine Chapel. I think I'd like to be around that world. I think that would be fascinating, where people's lives are under the gun. They have to make art or basically be banished or killed. I would love to have been around then to make a documentary. That would be amazing.
What else do we have for question? Well, how come? Because, such a high stake?
Because when you have when people are doing things under duress, it's I think people's, when there's heightened emotional consequences to what you're doing, the essence of your personality comes out. You see people in ways that they can normally hide themselves. So in everyday life, we have a veneer of kind of how we want the world to see us. But, they say when you're on the battlefield, I mean, you're not thinking and you're not self-conscious. You're just doing, and to see someone who's an artist, or something creative like that, just in that moment, and they're giving themselves entirely over to their passion. I mean, they don't necessarily have to be under the gun, but that always makes it more dramatic, cinematic, because there's consequences if they don't do it, is the most fascinating and most compelling. At least for me, I love watching that stuff.
You make a very compelling argument.
Yeah.
Oh, here's another good one. Matt the Shadow Man asks, would you consider doing a follow-up documentary, say 5 to 10 years later, to see how the fandom has changed?
I'm fascinated to see what the fandom will be like. I mean, I've already been to, I was already at the last BronyCon and then BronyCon this year, and I was blown away how how much bigger it was, how much more organized it was, and how much the fandom had grown. So I would absolutely love to. I mean, maybe not even that long. Maybe in 2 years from now, that would make it 4 years. I mean, that would be fascinating because it moves so quickly.
Certainly.
I mean, I hope the fandom's still together in that time, and not, but it'll be interesting because the fandom will sort of like, certain elements of the fandom will have grown up, and will the pirate parties in Germany still be identifying with bronies and doing pony time? And if they are, well, that would just make it that much more amazing.
Definitely.
So yeah, I mean, so the answer is yes.
Bit of an off one here. Retro Cheerily asks, what's the best 80s movie?
The best 80s movie. Oh my God. I would have to say the best 80s movie. The Karate Kid.
Good choice.
That is quintessential 80s movie. Yeah.
You've got the montage right there.
Yeah. Yeah, the montage is amazing. It's just iconic. I can always watch that movie, and I can, I always sort of identify with, Daniel LaRusso. The underdog.
The underdog.
Yeah.
Thunderbolt asks, what profession other than your own would you like to have?
If I wasn't doing film, what would I be doing? I mean, see, it's all it'd be artistic, as a kid, I always dreamed of being a musician, but I don't know, it never really happened, and I probably didn't have the talent anyway. But, yeah, I love music, and I love art. So I wish I could think of something like kind of more concrete and more sort of utilitarian and useful, like, a doctor or something. But yeah, I'd say maybe like musician or a painter.
Those are certainly good choices, and it doesn't. This is a what if scenario, so it doesn't have to be that concrete.
Yeah, I wouldn't say like president of the United States or something. I always love that, like in the actor's studio, they always ask the filmmakers and the actors, what job would you love to have, and then what job would you not want to have? And these actors, some of them go, I wouldn't want to be the president of the United States, or I wouldn't want to be in this position. And it's like, it's you think about it, and it's like, well, I don't think I'd want to be a janitor in a porno shop. I think, yeah, but like nobody really gets down to like what would be the worst job. I mean, that guy that's in those little, has to mop up in those video booths. I'm like, I think that would be the worst job. I always wanted to give that answer.
You know what? I'm going to have to remember that now, because that's the answer I'm going to give if someone asks me that question.
Right. I mean, like, what is worse than that? Okay, yeah, digging ditches in the hot sun, if you're in a chain gang, is probably pretty bad. But I mean, there's probably some dignity in that. But if you're the guy that has to go in there, you watch some people go in there and you're like, okay, they'll be out in about 20 minutes and I'll have some work to do.
Oh.
That's gotta be like the worst.
Oh my Lord. That, again, I love these creative answers some people can give, such as this.
Yeah.
Where were we? Flutterlights asks, if you would have never made this Brony documentary, what would you be doing today?
What would I be doing? Well, what would I be doing? I guess I'd be working. What would I be doing at this point? And I guess I might have had the horror film going by now. Probably. I took time off from the horror film to do this documentary, and I'm just now sort of catching up again. So yeah, I guess I'd be doing this horror film, hopefully.
Thunderbolt asks, Coke or Pepsi?
Coke or Pepsi? Coke.
Good choice. Twilight is Magic asks, do you browse the fan work Bronies create?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I've browsed, yeah, especially at the conventions, and I've been all over DeviantArt, and I've hung out with JJ, obviously, seen all his stuff. So yeah, I love the fan art.
Then there's a follow-up question of his: which is your favorite medium the fans? Which is your favorite medium the fans work in? And is there any particular one you'd like to see more of?
Oh, I mean, I can't say one over the other. The music's awesome. The video's awesome. Laser Pone's cool with his laser show. I mean, JJ's work's amazing, as well as so many other bronies on DeviantArt. The animation's exquisite that the fans. I mean, I'm overwhelmed. I really couldn't say one is better or I love it all. I can't. It's hard for me to. There's some things I respond to more, perhaps, but it doesn't really have to do with the medium that it's created in.
Sure. That is understandable.
Yeah, it's overwhelming. I mean, I haven't honestly had the time, to go over everything that's out there. I mean, for a while, I would just every night I'd be on there going, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. It's just it's never ending.
I can relate.
Yeah,
I can relate.
I'm sure many late nights you go down the rabbit hole, and it's amazing.
Oh, what else do we have? Okay, I'll ask this one. Flutterlights asks, how much time do you spend on a computer every day?
Probably 6 to 8 hours. Yeah, maybe more. A lot. I'm on it a lot. I do a lot of video editing, so I'm on it doing that. And then I'm, obviously Facebook, Twitter, YouTube. Yeah. Too much time.
No, there's not enough time in the day. That's the problem.
Yeah, well, maybe that's what it is. But I look out the window, I'm like, it's dark, and I still didn't go surfing. Oh my God! So that's been my big issue. Is I've been just glued to my computer and haven't gone to the beach. And I live right by the beach, so.
Mr. Ben asks, have you been tempted to create any fan works of your own?
I'm not that. I don't think I have a talent to do that. I can't really. I mean, after being around so many genius artists, I don't know if I'd even have the courage to. I know they're super accepting and everyone would be cool. I'm not sure what I could do, and I've often pondered that. What really could I do? I mean, I don't know how to animate. I mean, maybe I could put together some, I don't know, some bad brony music. I wasn't inspired by that, and I can't really draw ponies very well. I mean, I could. They don't look like ponies, or at least not one I want to show anybody. So I've thought about it, but I just don't think I'm that talented.
Everyone's talented. It's just a matter of perspective.
Yeah, but how do you translate that? You know what I mean? I'm looking at this in the heart of battle, and this is so amazing. I wouldn't even begin to know how to make this. You know what I mean? It's I'm spinning around right here in this 3D world, and it's so cool.
The pic I just showed you?
Yeah, I mean, it's if I could do animation, I would be animating ponies. There's no doubt. It would take me probably a couple of years of animation classes for me to be able to do something of learning Toon Boom and all that. I mean, I know I could figure it out. It's very visual that way, but it would take some time.
I was going to say it's just a matter of time.
Yeah, but I mean, you could see it. Lauren Faust didn't become, wasn't born Lauren Faust, even though we saw some incredible pony, drawings she did when she was a kid. But I mean, she put in I mean, a lot of time and energy into honing her craft. You know, she's earned every she's earned every ounce of it, and she does it every day. I mean, she probably works 14, 15 hours a day, I'm going to guess. You know, I mean, it's just, but that's how it's done. Those animators, I mean, it's, you know, they don't leave, they have really comfortable chairs. I'll tell you that. I've done some shoots at Disney and I've seen those animators. I mean, they have, you know, everything so they don't have to move. Monitors on weird, like, movable arms, and, you know, the pads that they draw on moves around, and these aerodynamic, these I keep losing the words here, and in ways so that, you know, they don't get repetitive motion damage. And I mean, it's they're there for. And you drive by like Disney at night, and you can see there's people still working. It's like 1 o'clock in the morning. You look up, and it's like, you're like, wow, okay, yeah, it's not easy.
The way you're making it sound, it isn't. It does not sound that way.
No, I mean, when Lauren did the show, she was tirelessly. She was just working on it day and night. I mean, she put so much of herself into that show that once she was off of it, I mean, I think she probably was kind of spent. You know, it was just, you know, when you're birthing, you know, that kind of. You know, she birthed an entire world. I mean, she reinvented this whole thing. I mean, it just all came out of her. I mean, that's. I mean, it's rewarding, and I'm sure it was an adrenaline rush. But then, you know, when the adrenaline wears off and the show's out there, and you're sitting back, it's like you gotta replenish. And yeah,
there will be the crash.
Yeah, I mean, she's coming around again, you know, but I think it took a lot out of her. I really do.
I would agree with that.
I mean, I think it's part of the reason why she sort of, like, you know, dropped off the radar for a while, you know, and then, you know, kind of slowly came around and embraced her fans, you know, by showing up, you know, in person, by showing up at BronyCon. That was an amazing moment, though, I have to say. You're asking about amazing moments. Her at BronyCon, walking on that stage, and I mean, she knew she had fans and people loved her and what she did, but when she had a standing ovation of like 5,000 people. I mean, that I was sitting there like looking at the monitor, watching her, and I'm like, how do you even like deal? I can't even imagine. How do you, you know, how do you manage that? Well, she started tearing up, obviously, but I'd be like, I hope I wouldn't do that. I mean, you know, I don't know. That was amazing, but that was such a moment, you know, where she finally kind of like had this connection, you know, beyond the internet, you know, in person with that many fans. I mean, it was good for her. I think that was a really good thing. It was a moment for her to kind of let go of some of the pain, you know, because it was hard for her to leave the show. You know, that was a big painful moment for her. And, you know, and felt really bad. I mean, she did it with a heavy heart. But to be able to see the fans and kind of, you know, for them to see her and realize how much she'd put into the show and that they appreciated it. I mean, that was, yeah, I think I was tearing up just watching it.
Puts everything in perspective.
Yeah, I mean, because it's like you create art or drawing or anything, and it's like, you know, so much you put into the world, and, you know, it might touch people, it might not, but a lot of times you don't get any feedback, you know, and art is about having a dialogue, you know, it's just like we're talking, but instead of like, you know, using your words per se, you're creating this drawing, and in the drawing, you're saying everything you want to say, and to be able to watch people, you know, respond to it is part of the conversation. And, you know, for her to see it in person is amazing, because otherwise you get fan mail, which is very touching, but there's nothing stronger than like being a rock star at a concert, which what she was. I mean, she was standing center stage and her audience was right there. It was amazing.
I think that's a good way of putting it. There's nothing quite like being a rock star at a sold out concert, as you put it.
Yeah, I mean, you can see it. It's like there's another amazing documentary that I forgot to tell you about, is the new lead singer of that band Journey from the 80s. That kid from the Philippines. I mean, he was like this. I mean, that was another amazing thing. And he talked about the same thing. Like, he's so humble, this guy. He's just a really good singer and fan of Journey. And they saw him on YouTube, and he became the lead singer of Journey. But he came out there, and he doesn't have like that American rock star ego. He didn't grow up in the American culture of, you know, a lot of kids that want to be, you know, they're in bands and they have these big egos because they're talented and, you know, and they're rock stars in their high schools, where he's just like, you know, I just want to sing music because it's from my soul, and I don't know how it's going to be received, and I don't want to disappoint. I mean, he was just so humble. But then when people started cheering him on, and before you knew it, like, you know, that the audience of Journey, which is like, you know, these grown up kids, you know, out of the 80s,
yep.
You know, turned to like, I don't know what it was, like a third of the audience turned Filipino all of a sudden. It was like amazing. I was like, this is amazing. And they're just cheering him. And you could see that, like, can barely, his voice is gone, and, you know, but he's still going. And it's that dialogue that he's having with the audience, and feeling that he's connecting, and he's, you know, he's transmitting those emotions and those stories that, you know, have touched his life through his songs, and they're responding to it, and they're, you know, singing the lyrics back and forth to him. You feel validated, and you feel like your life has purpose, and that all the energy that you put into this thing, you know, has meaning. And in that moment, that's the meaning of his life. I mean, you know, and that's the moment that I think Lauren Faust felt too. It was like, you know, dreaming of this from being a little girl, you know, and creating all these stories, and then having the opportunity to actually do it in real life. I mean, that's fulfilling. And then the moment where you actually encounter your audience in person, all gathered in a room, it's like, that's one of the greatest moments you probably can have in a lifetime.
And just that, in a lifetime.
Yeah, I mean, you and I don't know, maybe you, I don't know if I'll ever have a moment like that, you know? You know, that's
no, I don't think I will either.
You might. I mean, not to say that you won't, but I mean, that it's amazing. It's such a rare thing, you know, that ever, you know, that happens. And it's not even, you know, it's not even like, so like a rock star gets used to it after a while, right? You go on tour and you have that thing, and it just keeps building. But like, these are, you know, it doesn't happen to her every day. And I think the audience knew that it was special too, because she doesn't come out that often. You know, so that even heightened it even more.
Oh, we are approaching the quote-unquote official end time here, about 10 minutes. So I'm going to ask you a quick question, Mr.
Sure.
Laurent. Do you need to leave in that 10 minutes, or do you have a little extra time?
Well, I probably need to bounce out because my friend's waiting for me at 3. But I mean, I can, if you need to, we could do it. We can do this again if you want. I'm totally open if you want to do another one, if you need to ask me more questions.
Oh, I think we probably could, because there are a few questions I have from my questions concerning the documentary that we have yet to even get to. But that's okay. I don't hate. You would not be the first person I brought back for an interview on here. So something like this would not be A, out of the question, and B, certainly doable.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Plus the lost tapes are coming out next month. So I mean, that'll be great, because a bunch of bronies will have seen it, and they're going to have a million questions as well.
Certainly. We could absolutely do it for that very reason. But we still have about 10 minutes here.
Yeah. Okay.
Were you going to say something? I'm sorry.
No, go ahead. No, sorry, go ahead.
There are 2 questions from an anonymous person I have here that actually just there are 3. I'm sorry. There are 3 of them that I want to get to before we go. This first one is, after getting a huge response to the documentary, what aspects do you wish you would have put a greater focus on?
Within the documentary, you mean?
Yeah, I think that's what the person meant, within the documentary.
Yeah, I mean, there are some storylines that I wanted to expand. I wanted to expand more on Daniel's story, because there's a lot that didn't make it into the documentary. there is also Alex. I wanted to animate Alex's story because he's when he was, well, this is before, when he was still living in, well, he still lives there, but we were filming, we were driving at the end of the day to go see the sunset. Mm-hmm. And he said, and it dawned on me at this moment, he's like, because we were going to shoot this final shot with him, kind of his pensive moment, and kind of end our shoot. And he goes, let's see if Celestia has a sunset for us today. What does she have in store for us? And he said it in such a way that it was like, and the way that he talks about like being bullied by these rednecks and how he finds courage, in his pony persona almost. And I was like, I saw in that moment that he kind of slides between two different realities. There's the actual reality of his world and then his pony reality. And I would love to have animated the whole story of him, being in his car and telling us a story and then turning into like his OC and then seeing these rednecks roll up in their trucks with their guns and them turning into, these dark, menacing ponies that would come after him and to see the whole thing play out in a pony world. Mm-hmm. So I would really have loved to have seen that. We obviously didn't have time and to do it, but that's one thing I would really have liked to have seen. I would say those two elements. There's a few little things here and there, but overall, I think we did what we set out to do. Some people have said, you don't really look at the other side and kind of like why people criticize bronies, and I've gotten that criticism a lot, and that's a fair criticism, but I thought it was such a steep kind of thing anyway for an audience to, I don't know, it's such a steep path to go on because it's when I tell people about bronies and my involvement in the fandom, they have so many prejudgments about what they are. They're infantile, they're pedophiles, there's some sort of sexuality to it. It just goes on and on and on. And it literally takes me 2 hours for them to kind of go, okay. God, they're nothing like I expected them to be. All right, maybe I'll check a show out just to get to that point. So I didn't feel like I needed to like have more people talking about bronies in a disparaging way, and I felt like the argument already was so hard to, it's so hard to get someone from the outside to even understand what it was that I don't think I needed to go into anything to highlight the negative parts of it.
I'd have to agree with that. We could certainly discuss that, you and I, on a later day on.
Sure.
But not now.
Yeah.
Did the fandom's reception of the documentary meet or exceed what you were expecting?
I felt bad because some people kind of, were a little bit critical of it, and some people had fair notes, and they were like things that I completely agreed with, and so I felt that was fair. I think it was dealt with pretty fairly. You can't make everybody happy, and that's just life, Mm-hmm. Some people wanted us really to get into the darker side of the fandom, the cloppers and the sexualized side of the fandom, which I think is fair. Which I think that we could have gone into that, but. I don't know that would have really. I think that would have kind of made the fandom kind of. I don't know. It would have kind of marginalized it. I think. I'm not opposed to it. I wouldn't mind doing a documentary into the sexualized part of it, but I think that's a documentary all unto itself.
I think that's actually a really good point. Carry on. I'm sorry if I interrupted you.
No, go ahead. No, go ahead.
That was all I had.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Yeah, because I think that explaining that, and I don't think it's something you can just sort of brush over. How people are attracted to Lyra and how that. I think that you would have to go back into the furries and the history of that, and go into that whole. Because the people that were into what we're seeing was an offshoot of the furries. There's all these different connections that people tie into it, and from what I found, I've never found, and I was interviewed by a couple, Hollywood reporters, and they were asking me about the sexual aspects of it, and I was like, I never saw any of that, and they're talking about pedophiles, at conventions, and I'm like, I don't even see that many kids there. And I was saying, look, if anything weird happened, the Bronies would be all over it. Mm-hmm. They would stop. They would arrest that in a heartbeat. I mean, everyone's there, and if there's a kid, people are quick to help the kid. The kid got lost, they would get the kid back to his parents. I mean, people don't really understand. So, and I've never even seen any. I haven't seen any sexualization of the ponies at any of the conventions. So, I mean, I'm sure it's there, but it's definitely not a dominant force in the fandom. I can say that, or else you would see it all over the place.
Exactly.
It's just, I haven't. And then they talked about sort of the gay aspect. Well, we touched upon a gay couple in the, that coming out in the lost tapes. And I found like one openly gay couple that was walking around Buck, and everyone was giving them high fives, but it was this thing where you saw that, well, like, it wasn't like that common either, because it became this thing where everyone was like, oh, this beautiful moment, these people found each other. Mm-hmm. But yeah, so, I mean, I forgot what the question was. I just kind of went on a rant. I apologize.
We were talking about the fandom's reception of the documentary.
Oh, right.
And to be fair, you're still on it.
Yeah. So, I mean, some people, criticize, why don't you go more into this or more into that? But, I mean, a lot of it, I will say, this is what I found, mm-hmm. This is what I discovered, So, and what I found is what's in the documentary, and the stuff that didn't make it into the documentary. Well, now we have the lost tapes coming out. So, and I explored, I mean, I shot so many, I mean, I worked my ass off. I mean, I shot so much, just cause that's how I work. I want to film everything I see, every possible storyline. And that way, I want to be in a point where I'm in editing, where I'm making painful decisions, as opposed to, oh, we don't have enough material. We have like 5 great moments, but we should have had 10. So we'll just stretch out these 5 great moments and get a bunch of filler, which happens a lot, when you're making, documentary reality-based television, and you don't have time to, go as deep as you want to a subject, and you're just like, bam, you're in editing, you got to deliver it. And I didn't want to be in that situation. So I'm always panicked, because I always feel guilty. Like, there was this great, beautiful moment or storyline that I didn't take advantage of, and I didn't capture, and I feel like I should have.
And last question. This one's a bit iffy, but I'll ask it anyway. What lessons did the team learn when they transitioned from a TV budget to a Kickstarter budget?
Wait, so say that again.
This person asked, what lessons did the team learn when they transitioned from a TV budget to a Kickstarter budget?
Oh, so I'm really the only person that's worked in independent film like this. Like, neither Mike nor John had worked in this kind of world. So it was kind of a transition to them, because suddenly, in TV you get these budgets, but more than the budget, you get the infrastructure, meaning that you've got a post-production department that will do graphics for you, that you have an editor waiting to cut things, that you have multiple editors and they can work on multiple storylines, and you have, camera crew, you have all this stuff, and for me, it's like I was shooting and directing, a lot of this stuff, so it was a lot. And a lot of times I was dealing with the audio too. So it would be like me and maybe one other person. And it was a lot. It was a lot. Sometimes it was pretty stressful, but I would say you got to scale down, and everyone has to do multiple jobs, because you don't have the infrastructure. You've got to do a lot of problem solving. And a lot of times, because you don't have the infrastructure of a production company, you end up spending more money on things because it's not there. You've got to buy all these hard drives. You've got to, pay people to do things, and you got to figure out a workflow. Like, we lost a few weeks of just all the footage from the cameras had to be transcoded, and that went on for weeks, because I think we had 24 terabytes worth of footage or something crazy, and that had to be transcoded, and then you need triple redundancy, and like we're using this camera and it's hacked, so meaning that like we have a DSLR and there's this firmware update that allows for a higher bit rate, so it could have a theatrical release, it could look as good as it could, and so that means all this transcoding through After Effects, getting these MTS files into Apple ProRes file, and it was like, I mean, it was a day and night thing, and I think we got 2 weeks into it, and then one of the settings in the transcoding hadn't been right. We lost 2 weeks. We had to start all over again. Ooh. I mean, it just technically it was a lot. So yeah, I mean, it's great. I love the freedom. I love the creativity and the freedom, but I miss the infrastructure. And people that are experienced at that particular medium. So that was a challenge. But no, I wouldn't. I loved every part of it. I mean, there are definitely times where it was like, oh my God, this is insane. What have I gotten myself into?
I bet.
Yeah, but that was quickly followed by, wow, look at this, amazing storyline that I just got, and these, and everyone wanted to be in the film, which was great, and we're excited and scared, and it was, I didn't do it alone. I mean, they were equally as involved as I was. They weren't just showing up, saying they're, doing their interview and that was it. They were, all about, trying to help us figure out where they live and giving us directions and, making sure that, we knew what we were going to eat. And I mean, just all the stuff that you would normally have somebody there to take care of. Everyone stepped in, and people's families were great. I mean, it was amazing. Sometimes they fed us. I mean, Laser Pone's mom made us lunch. I mean, it was incredible. It was like all these rare European cheeses and wine, and it was amazing.
That sounds delicious.
Yeah, but if she had made us lunch, we were outside of Amsterdam in the middle of nowhere. I don't know what we'd have done. But in a production, you would have had there would have been a production coordinator and some PAs, and they would have figured it all out. Instead, it was just Scott McCloud and Mike and I. And Mike's he's basically having to field all the emails from all the Kickstarter people constantly, day and night, because that was a full-time job. And Scott and I filming this thing. So there definitely was no luxury.
It's not sound like it.
No, but it was great. I mean, it was exciting and it was rewarding, and we consumed a lot of caffeine.
I bet.
Yeah.
Caffeine
Oh, yeah.
is for the weak.
Well, we were weak. When we got to Europe, man, it's like they live off espresso, shots of espresso. It's just everywhere. Okay, here we go.
Right. It's 2 hours are up, Mr. Laurent.
Okay.
So, do you have any last words to say to the audience, or anything else to say?
Yeah, I mean, I really appreciate the entire Brony community, and I'm grateful that you guys supported this project, and I had the opportunity to make this film, and it's been incredible, and it's changed my life in so many ways, and I realize it, kind of day by day. But it's been one of the most amazing experiences that I've had so far in making a film. So I'm very appreciative. So thank you guys.
Thank you for appearing here.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, and if you need me, let me know in the next couple of weeks. If you need me I'm happy to, come on as much as possible. I love doing it. I really enjoy these. So
thank you.
Yeah, it was a great experience.
Then with that, let me wrap things up and stay on the line. Like I said, I've got just some stuff I need to talk to you privately about. But in the meantime, ladies and gentlemen, I want to thank you for stopping on by for myself and Mr. Laurent here. We'd like to both thank you for stopping on by, along with my coworkers, Mr. Ben and Twilight is Magic. Next week, we will be discussing Season 4, our predictions, and one other thing we'll be discussing. So, not an episode discussion, just a usual discussion. In the meantime, farewell. Give it about 20 seconds and the broadcast will stop streaming.
Oh, okay. I'm still tripping out on this on this deviant art photo here. I can't get enough of it.
Hold that thought.